Hello again, YouTube family. Thanks for joining me on this video. Please, if you like my videos, give them a like. If you've not subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe to my channel and help the channel grow. And today we are talking about, as you can see to my left, Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Matt Gaetz is the Republican House representative from Florida who is currently allegedly under investigation by the Department of Justice for violating child sex trafficking laws by paying for a underage girl to travel to have sex with him. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the two QAnon congresswomen. You've got her of Georgia and Lauren Boebert of Colorado, who have both espoused support of the QAnon conspiracy theory movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of all of her insanity, ended up getting removed from her committee assignments, and therefore she is a completely unusable representative for the people of the 14th District in Georgia. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, people like, and they held a press conference of sorts. And they had people like Louis Gohmert at the press conference. Louis Gohmert is in the same vein as Gaetz and Greene and Boebert. They have no legislative agenda. They did not go to Congress to legislate it. They did not go to Congress to govern. They went to Congress to get more popular. Matt Gaetz has already investigated the possibility of getting a job for some right-wing news media organization outside of Congress, as he can see the end of his career coming soon if the allegations against him turn out to be true. And in the end, it really doesn't matter where he tries to go and run and hide at. If the allegations are true, he is most likely headed to prison for at least a period of a few years for the child sex trafficking thing, plus whatever else they have on him. Apparently, Matt Gaetz was very prolific about having sex with women he was paying for the sex. Where he was paying for the sex. There were stories of him helping pay tuition for some of the girls he was having sex with, paying for travel, hotel stay, that sort of thing, which ends up putting him in hot water. His buddy down in Florida is already turned state's evidence, is spilling his beans in order to try and get a lower sentence for himself, and therefore putting Matt Gaetz at risk. But they were holding a press conference to try and gaslight over this January 6th commission that's being started up. And that is, the Democrats are going to start a January 6th commission to investigate how it was that this group of lunatic right-wingers broke into and accessed the Capitol on that day. And really, any government would hold this kind of investigation to figure out where the fatal flaw was in their defense of the Capitol building. And the Democrats had offered the Republicans an opportunity to participate. At this point, the Democrats are putting it together themselves. You had Nancy Pelosi turning down 2 of the 5 people that McCarthy put forward to be on the commission, one of whom was Jim Jordan, who is a sycophant of Trump, and another one of these Republicans who got into office despite the fact that they have no notion of how to legislate. They have no intention of legislating. They just want to get on television, get on social media, and throw out right-wing buzzwords that get the base liking them more, that get them more views, more followers, It's a popularity contest right now with the Republican right wing. And they held this press conference to try and minimize the January 6th commission and throw out all their little gaslighting talking points. And because they are so incompetent and ignorant, despite the fact that Matt Gaetz has a law degree, he falls right in there with the incompetence and the ignorance. They had a press conference publicly outside on the sidewalk. Therefore, people could assemble up there in public on the sidewalk. They had their podium with the microphones for the various news agencies that showed up. And because it was in public, they really had no control over how it went. So, I mean, you've got cars on the streets, you've got people walking by, some of the people stop, some people come just to protest. So they had protesters at their press conference. They had the Whistler, I'll get into here in a minute, at their rally. There were people on the streets who saw what was going on, and you could tell were purposely revving up their engines because you can't stop them from doing that. That's the thing. When somebody is in public, they have the right for freedom of expression. That's one of the rights we're given in this country. And people expressed. And the press conference went off the rails, and I've got a few video clips to show you of that, and so let's dive into those.
They're my problem. They're my problem.
And that is the
Congressman
Whistler.
Gomart is my problem. Congressman Gaetz is my problem. Congresswoman Greene is my problem.
This isn't solving it.
Their corner conference doesn't solve anything either.
Please stop. You don't care that you're hurting me. You don't care that you're hurting someone. This is physical assault at this point.
Move away.
I'm working. This is physical assault.
You're working covering the traitors? Good.
Physical assault.
Occupational hazard.
All of these people's salaries, and they owe the people of this country the answers to the questions.
We need it right. We need it.
Okay.
The left is interrupting the press conference. We need to end it.
Thank you. For those of you that really
the
care
media,
about
you
this
saw what
process,
happened here.
thank
The
you.
left shut us down. Hey, please, man.
Oh my God.
And so there you have the first clip, and that was showing at the beginning the guy associated with the Gaetz Greene press conference addressing the Whistler, and he was saying that Matt Gaetz is my problem, Marjorie Greene is my problem, because he was asking the guy what his problem was. He kept blowing the whistle. I mean, he was blowing the whistle nonstop throughout this. I mean, it sounded like there were times he would take a break, but part of that was, I'm assuming, talking to these people that were berating him. Towards the end of that video, you saw the woman who was addressing him, and it seems like she is a woman from a right-wing YouTube news outlet who was trying to tell the guy that he was harming her by blowing his whistle, and it was hurting her ears. And that was one of the points the guy in the video made, is that you don't care that you're hurting people. You're blowing your whistle into their ears. And the guy was trying to say, I'm not blowing my whistle into anyone's ears. And the thing is, the truth is, you have these people that are coming up to, not just coming up to, getting in the face of this guy who's blowing the whistle, then claiming harm to themselves from the loudness of the whistle after they come up directly to the guy. I mean, it's absolutely insanity, completely illogical to walk up to someone who's blowing a whistle, then say, you're blowing the whistle too loud, And the guy was trying to tell him, move. It's a sidewalk. You can go wherever you want. You don't have to be right in front of me. You can move over here. You don't hear the whistle right in your face. And that's the thing. They're trying to gaslight it with a January 6th commission investigation. That's what these politicians and their lackeys and the right-wing media people that showed up there are there for, is to start this gaslighting campaign against the investigation into January 6th. A day in which right-wing people literally beat cops with flagpoles, punched them, kicked them. You had hundreds of injuries. Police who were injured. You had 5 deaths that day. 5 deaths from that day, and one or two of the deaths happened a day or two later. One of the Capitol police officers committed suicide. It's tragic, but it was an insane day. They're trying to gaslight on that. Meanwhile, they're saying the guy on the street blowing the whistle is being violent, and he's attacking them when they're walking up to him. But that was the first video clip of the video.
Where you guys from? Yeah. Where'd you get your mask from? Oh, I got it from a buddy.
And that was clip 2. And as you can tell, they did not have some kind of sound system set up to really make it very effective to speak to people on the street, outside, in that kind of environment. So the whistle stood out. I mean, it was insane. That guy showed up and was blowing the whistle pretty much nonstop throughout this whole thing until they called it quits. And it was just hilarious. And so this is video 3. And so there you had another representative coming up and speaking into this completely ineffective microphone, and the whistler is still there. Here is a screen capture from the video of the whistler himself. And he was there with his mask on, being a concerned citizen, wearing his mask because there was a crowd gathered. And as you can tell, going into his mask there, he's got the whistle in his mouth, blowing the whistle nonstop. And it was just too funny. Here is video 4.
Why are you blowing in people's ears, dude? Are you trying to assault people? Are you trying to assault people with auditory weapons? Why are you calling?
Congressman Gaetz.
And that was, again, the guy that was there with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, berating the guy for showing up and blowing that whistle nonstop. It's too funny. It's too funny. The Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, it just came out because they've been doing this America First tour thing where they're traveling around talking to people. They are both representatives from a single district. She represents a district in Georgia. Matt Gaetz represents a district in Florida. That's who their constituents are. They're traveling around the country trying to make money, trying to get more popular in the right wing with their America First tour. And it just came out that the tour has lost somewhere to the tune of around $300,000. Because these two will spend money, but they're not making enough to recoup what they're spending. It's just too funny. It's a folly of errors with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. And the thing is, I don't know if she has a degree at all. She and her husband have a couple of businesses in Georgia they make a lot of money from. And the thing is, it's not like she and her husband started a business. Her family owned a construction company. And therefore, she and her husband now own that construction company and make a lot of money from it. It's inherited affluence for she and her husband. If they are still together, because there's still the rumors in the town she comes from in Georgia that she was very much not loyal and faithful to her husband. But I digress. That is people talking. It could be BS, it could be true. But as far as this goes, this is the epitome of their stupidity. When you have a press conference inside of a building, you then have control of who comes in, who can go out. You can kick people out of the building. When you are on a public street, the Supreme Court has already said people have their first 10 Amendment rights. They have their Bill of Rights in public areas, and the government can't infringe on that. So if the guy wants to stand on the street and blow the whistle, he can stand on the street and blow the whistle. That's his freedom of expression. Just like the people who were there heckling them, yelling things at them, the people that were on the road, revving their car up, knowing that it was going to interfere with the press conference, even though the lack of good audio at the press conference interfered with the press conference. If you watch that video from one of the news organizations that was there, they actually put microphones on the podium to capture their own audio, and then they were able to filter out the noise. I mean, if you listen to some of the people who filmed this press conference, they're able to filter out the whistle. You can hear him whistling in the background, but it is not as significant because you're able to, once you record the audio, you can manipulate it. And you can filter out the background noise. But it's just too funny. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, Louis Gohmert, and whoever else was part of this press conference showed up to try and gaslight on this January 6th commission the Democrats are doing. And Republicans are complaining about it. At the beginning, Republicans had the ability to have control. Democrats, when they first set it up, they were going to set it up to have 5 Democrats on the commission, 5 Republicans. There would be a Democrat and Republican that were co-leaders of the commission. And the thing is, the original offering by the Democrats that was rejected by the Republicans would have made it to where Nancy Pelosi had no power to deny any Republican members that McCarthy wanted on the team. He had that ability, and he pushed it aside. And then when the Democrats said, okay, fine, you don't want to participate, we're still going to investigate. Then he tried to put names up. He put up 5 names. 2 were disqualified because they were seen as complicit with the riots, which makes sense. You don't want people who were complicit with the riots to be investigating the riots. And the truth is, McCarthy was putting Republicans forward for the commission that he thought could throw a wrench into the system and try and muddy it and make it a lot less effective, which I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans in the House that can bring up ridiculous issues that have nothing to do with what they're investigating to make it much less of a serious thing than what Nancy Pelosi was trying to put together. Do I have a great deal of faith in the commission? Not really. Politicians typically are not that good at investigating and not that good at coming forward with the findings from their investigations, particularly if those findings end up damning other politicians. They seem to kind of protect their own, even if their own is not in the same party. And it's just one of those things. I don't have a lot of faith in this commission doing a real investigation, coming up with real results, and prosecuting people that are found culpable. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, and for this commission to take it seriously and to come up with real recommendations to say this is why we weren't prepared. This is why this attack worked. This is why it was successful. These are people in government who were complicit. These are the people who participated that were in it. And we've already got hundreds of people waiting for court dates. Some people have already gone to court. Some people have started pleading guilty because their lawyers explained to them, if you fight it, you're going to be found guilty because you're on video. You were dumb enough to have yourself videoed while you were breaking doors, breaking windows, smearing feces inside the Capitol building. You are not only incompetent, you are very ignorant and willing to let yourself be videoed while committing a crime. So you're going to be found guilty. So those people ended up pleading guilty to try and get a lesser penalty. You have some of these January 6th rioters who, I mean, let's face it, they are the furthest down the rabbit hole, the most loyal to Donald Trump people who have turned on Donald Trump, who got mad that Donald Trump, while he was still in office for almost 2 weeks, right around 2 weeks after that day, he didn't pardon them. I'm sure there were people around Donald Trump telling him it would be very bad for you to have your supporters attack the Capitol and then you turn around and pardon them immediately after. That would not be a particularly good look. And in the end, Donald Trump cares about one person. In the entire world, he cares about one person. And that one person is Donald Trump. And I don't know if people are going to start to realize that if you get in bed with Donald Trump, eventually he will throw you under a bus. But that's what's going to happen. These rioters who were doing the stuff that Donald Trump loved from reports, he doesn't care about them. They are insignificant people to him. He's important. They are not important. That's the way someone like Donald Trump looks at this stuff. And that's where we're at. But the news conference was hilarious. The Whistler is outstanding. And thanks for everybody who tuned into this video. Please give me a like, a subscribe if you're feeling generous. And by all means, have a good day.